saved me a lot
Welcome.
of. Thank you very much. Okay, I have my questions ready. Okay, we can start. Yeah, but anyways, I was like, like, um, I was trying to figure out what was wrong that was in me that was attracting that part of everybody because we kind of attract, different versions of different people. So
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Anyways, so I have a lot of questions here for you. I hope you're ready to answer them
How many
all.
is a
I
lot?
guess, well, it depends on how long you want to stay here. So, anyways, I think you can manage them all in a few seconds, I guess. They're
Okay.
not a lot.
Okay.
Okay. So, do you want me to go and start with the questions, or do you have anything to say or
No,
anything to?
I'm
Okay.
I'm here
So,
to serve. So however I can serve.
okay. So, one of like a lot of people ask me to ask you because I talk about you all the time. I always tell them, well, uh, I was stuck in the sucking in information phase, and then somebody just told me, yeah, I don't take in information anymore. I just apply. I think I asked you one time, like,
Yeah.
oh, have you read this book? I read on this book, and you're like, no, I think you need to start applying what you know. So I always remember that, and I tell everyone about that. So anyways, one of the questions that I want to ask you today is emotions, how to deal with them, especially anxiety. So a lot of people ask me, hey, like they fight that, how do you deal with it? Like what's your process? So how do you go about that?
So I don't know if you know my story, but for most of my life, I dealt with anxiety um, almost every day, if not every day. It was the reason why I started seeking out meditation is because on paper, my life was amazing. Everything was what every kid would want it to be. And yet inside, there was all this anxiety. And it came from being a leader in hockey when I was a kid. People would cheer for me when I'd show up to the arena late because, one kid once said, Warren's here now, we don't have to do anything, when I was only 8 years old. And I took on this weight of the world that what's important to my friends, the happiness, because hockey in Canada is very important to an 8-year-old when all of his friends play hockey and it's the only thing that's important. Looking back as an adult, it seems silly, but I carried the weight of these kids' happiness on my shoulders as if my friend's happiness is my responsibility. And I did this through all of my relationships with all the girlfriends up until I was 28, when I discovered that this old pattern's playing out. So anxiety is something I'm very familiar with. And as I started meditating and as I understood that the only, that which we persist or that which we resist will persist, I
Yeah.
understood that if I'm not excited about my suffering, I have not learned the lesson yet. So it became exciting. When anxiety would arise inside of me, I'd be like, oh yeah, there it is. Because my mind was exercised through meditation, which is just like going to the gym. You go to the gym so that your body's fit. You don't go to the gym so you're good at lifting dumbbells. You go to the gym so your body's fit, so you can carry groceries and play with kids and, go golfing and do things with a healthy body. Well, the same with meditation. We go to meditate so that our mind becomes more fit, so that it's able to handle regular life. So these emotions hit. My mind was now strong enough to go, oh, look it, this anxiety is crazy. It doesn't matter what the story is. It doesn't matter why or who or how or what I need to change. All that matters was the energy that's inside of me that has come to the surface right now. I call this anxiety. What does that feel like? Because I'd understand that the energy inside of me is the one that's communicating continuously with the universe to bring more of that to me. That
Mhm.
my main goal is to uncover it so that I can heal it. When it's dormant and hiding, I'm just communicating silently to the universe, unconsciously. So as my anxiety arose, this was, say, 2017, I had a 2-day period where I'll just tell you the story real quick. I could see the writing on the wall that everything I was working for, my business, relationships, everything about my life was falling apart. And I knew that this had to come because I built it from the old version of me, and I hadn't kind of shed all of that yet, right? I was still trying to hold on.
Mhm.
This was, 3 or 4 years ago. So I was laying on the couch or sleeping on the couch one night and woke up at 4 a.m. with just crushing anxiety. And I mean, like, hard, struggling to breathe, physically struggling to breathe. It was difficult to get off the couch. It was difficult to like move. And at that time, from 4 a.m. for the first for 11 hours straight, I laid there with the mindset of like, oh, finally, there it is. This pain here, this is what riddles every area of my life. This I'm dragging this baggage with me. So for 11 hours, I just sat there with it for the first time, really meeting and accepting that feeling. And as I laid there and canceled all my meetings for the day, didn't eat, didn't, Netflix, didn't Instagram, just sat there with it for 11 hours. And we're talking somewhere like 25 years of anxiety. 11 hours later, I felt this like massive weight come off my shoulders. Now you're tired. So it's 4 a.m. It's only 3 p.m, but you're ready for a nap because it's been 11 hours of just your body's
Sitting
going
there.
through something. The next morning, 4 a.m. again, wake up, 8 more hours of the same, of me just knowing that if I resist it, it will persist. And if I accept it
Yeah.
and love it, it will transmute into that. So I loved it. I've never felt anxiety since. It was every day for 25, 26 years, 2 days or 19 hours of meditating with loving kindness and acceptance for anxiety. I know it's gone, and I've never felt it since. Now, that being said, I lost everything. After that, everything that I saw the writing on the wall, and I wasn't wrong. I lost everything. There was frivolous lawsuits. There was just every part of life that could go wrong was going wrong. And I had never felt so peaceful. So then from that state of feeling peaceful, how do you suppose I handled all this? The same way I would have, filled with anxiety? No,
Yeah.
because I've built and lost businesses before. I've built and lost relationships before. Uh, I know the way that my pattern, my natural response is to the loss of these things, the fighting for, the squeezing, the needing to keep it tighter. And life is like, life and abundance and health and the love that we're seeking. It's a lot like water. You put water in your hands, you have to hold it gently. And if you squeeze it, the tighter you squeeze, the less you have. And I saw
Yeah.
that I was just loosely holding whatever, just experiencing from this place of, curiosity, like, oh, I wonder where this is going to take me. Because the fuel from the last 25 years that was powering the machine that makes the choices was no longer there. It's like the gas tank of anxiety had run out.
Yeah.
And that really is just the continuous question that I asked myself was, oh, what does it feel like right now? Like, what does anxiety feel like? And I could feel it moving. Like it was in my throat at one point. It was like, it felt like there was 300 pounds, like a 300-pound person was sitting on my chest. Like that's how hard it was to breathe.
Yeah.
And I could feel that it was like tight on my spine. And I was like, interesting. It's like crazy knot in my stomach. I can still feel it if I look for that memory. I remember how that feels. It was very intense. I don't know if I'm ever going to forget the day how that felt, but I realized that I've never felt that since. And I just observed, going like, this is the energy that makes my life do this cycle. And if I love this
Yeah.
energy, this cycle will
Then
stop.
it,
But I can't say, I need this to stop. I hate this cycle. I hate it. I'm going to love this. I love it. Because it's not the words of I love it. It's the genuine acceptance, the knowing that the only way out is by accepting it. Love is the answer to every question, and love is acceptance. So you said I'd answer these questions
So yeah,
with a few seconds.
well, well, we do tend to do that usually, so it's okay. You take your time every time. Okay, so that was really nice. I like how people answer. Like, I like it when people put their experience when they answer a question, because usually, like, you can read a book and you can talk about other people's experience, but it's good when someone explains it with their own experience. So, okay, another question would be. Classical one. Why is there a lot of suffering if people are, meant to feel like they're present here in this world to find love? Why suffering?
Well, have you ever watched a movie where there's no struggle, where there's no twist, there's no climax? That would be something boring, right? It'd be like
Yeah.
typical. You're just getting the last 3 minutes of every rom-com. It's just panning away as they have a picnic for 2 hours.
Yeah, I
So,
know. I guess.
um, what ends up happening here in just about every human, the whole purpose of life, is that we find our way to love. But love is not in the thinking mind. Love is not in the why does this happen? Why did that happen to that person? Why is this happening to me? That's all the thinking mind, right? The
Yeah.
thinking mind, so the egoic separate self and that infinite connected self, that soul or spirit,
Mhm.
that's the duality, right?
Yeah.
So we only ever suffer when we're in the thinking mind. It's only the thinking mind which takes us into a story of the past or a story of the future. It's never here in the present moment. It's only there that we suffer. And this is why
Yeah.
meditation is the strengthening of getting out of that, the strengthening of
Mhm.
quieting that mind, of no longer being in a reactionary state of whatever that crazy monkey mind is telling us. And this question is more suffering. This question brings up more, because what we're trying to do here is it's like, hey, let's ask Mercy to ask Warren to tell us why there's more suffering so we can all share in this thinking process. When the real
Yeah.
question is, if you genuinely want to find your way out of suffering and you genuinely want to assist others in finding their way out of suffering, then the only answer is let's go experience non-suffering. Get yourself to a place where you no longer suffer, and then you become a light that everybody just naturally wants to follow because it's the natural state of us, of
Mhm.
our true self. Meaning, find a way, the one exercise that I do is to find a way to quiet that mind so that we are now experiencing the truth of this moment rather than thinking about the truth of every other moment. A great example would be that the terrible things that happened to me were my most healing, were the things that I appreciate in my life the most, were the things that if I told you how much money I lost or what my business partners did to me or what my ex-girlfriends did to me, things of that sort, you'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry that hardship happened to you. You'd be like, no, not a chance. I am so grateful to those people. I'm so grateful for those situations. Um,
Yeah.
then
And
then I look at you and I go like, oh, why does Mercy have to suffer? Oh, that's so terrible. Well, all that really happened in me is that the fuel that I was talking about earlier, the fuel of judgment is still there. So now I'm fueling judgment, I'm suffering, then I'm projecting my suffering onto you. Then maybe you take it on
then
because you're filled with fuel of sadness. So now you're suffering. And then we just get into the thinking mind about why and who and how do we change it. But we go, what do I feel right now? Oh, I feel sadness about how the world's suffering. Oh, where does that sadness? This is the reason the world suffers. Now, as we just
yeah.
let that energy out through the same process of accepting it, knowing that that sadness is communicating with the universe at all times to bring more of it towards you, more things to be sad about. That as we let that out, it it turns into that love that we're actually seeking. and the suffering
Yeah.
diminishes. But even beyond that, rather than thinking that we have to go emotion by emotion, situation by situation, and continuously let go of each and every one of them before we can find like a long-term happiness, all we really have to do is get to a place where our mind is strong enough to, in each moment, choose to be present. And
And
when we understand how to do that, the suffering ends instantly, because how can you suffer when you recognize that one of two things is happening? Either things are going well, quote unquote, well, right? And we're just experiencing the loving kindness of our life, or things are in a state of hardship, in which case we're growing. We're growing into
yeah.
a deeper state of love. So you can't suffer when those are your two options.
In fact, that brings me to my next question. In fact, I think you kind of answered it. But uh, what about discipline? Like, what is your concept when it comes to discipline? Because sometimes, like, the brain, the egoistic brain, obviously, likes to suffer, just likes the idea of pain. It feels alive, it feels present. So, if you're not, so for a person who has been in that type of mentality for the past, I don't know, 30 years, 20 years, I don't know, half their life, all their life, like what is the easiest way apart from the classical ones like learning to meditate and learning to be present, which sometimes it's people find it very difficult, unless you go through different experiences and then you get to experience different things, which becomes easier at some point. What is your like what is your concept when it comes to discipline? What is your concept when it comes to enjoying pain as humans?
Um, so a lot of people seek motivation, right? They want motivation
Yeah. Oh,
to
I
have
hate motivation.
more, to achieve more, to be better, to lose weight or gain weight or get fit or whatever. And as soon as we get to a state where our mental state is a continuous choice of presence, hey, there's an emotion here, like I'm not aware all day, every day, but I'm continuously able to bring my awareness to this moment as soon as I recognize it's not.
Mm,
Now, in that state, whenever it's like, oh, really got to get motivated, you realize that that's still a judgment that I don't accept life as it is. In which case, we can see this 1,000 times. It does not matter what actions you take. It does not matter what results you get. The universe can deliver to you the opposite results effortlessly, meaning lottery winners whose lives are ruined, thinking, hey, all I really need, if I just won the lottery, my life would be way better, right? The intention is I don't accept life as it is. I really need more. This would make me happy, something external. Money comes in, life gets ruined way worse than it was before, typically.
yeah.
Because the intention behind the actions, the intention behind the results are more important than the actual results or actions. And this
Yeah.
happens all day, every day. The clearer we get on this, the easier that we see that if we are seeking something external from ourselves in a state of judgment, even if we get that result, it'll lead us to another byproduct of suffering. And
Yeah.
this is easy to see, especially with money, which is external and quantifiable, that people get more and then they want more, and then they get more and they want more. And the happiness never
Mhm.
shows up with the number,
Yeah.
it never shows up with the number. So it has nothing to do with saying that you can't have money. It's the wanting of money that causes the suffering. It's the wanting of something different that causes us to suffer. So again, each and every time we're seeking motivation, or you asked discipline, that we're seeking to be different than we are, that's actually the suffering. The suffering's not the not having discipline. The suffering is the wanting of discipline, in which
It
case,
is.
when we understand the energy, we realize wanting and having are different. You can't want discipline and go get it. You can accept that you don't have it, and then all of a sudden you'll just naturally stumble into it. because
Mm-hmm.
question from the teacher, the universe, if you go to grade school, all right, class, we're having a test on Friday. The answer to every question on this test is love. Okay? That's it. The whole test, it's just love. Okay, Friday comes. Here's your test, Mercy. And you're like, oh, worry. Oh, I need more discipline. Oh, I got to read that book. Oh, why am I not working out? Oh, why am I this? I'm eating terrible. And then the teacher's like, Mercy, the answer is love. And you
It's not.
worried, and then you stressed, and then you beat yourself up. And this is what we do. It's like, hey, well, if you fail every test in the third grade, you have to repeat the third grade.
Yep.
Maybe not so much anymore, especially during COVID. Everybody just goes through, but we'll have we'll have those long-term effects to deal with later. But typically, if you fail continuously, you haven't learned the lessons. You can't move on to the next lessons because you haven't learned the previous
Yeah.
ones. So we
I've
live these
heard.
patterns over and over again, and the universe says, "Okay, here's your next lesson. It's a slightly different question, but the answer's still love." And then you get it and you go, typical old response, anxiety, stress, worry, beat myself up, react, crave more, judge, this is bad, this is good. And still, the entire answer, to make this as simple as possible,
Okay.
the entire answer to everything always is, can we be present and aware and accepting? So presence and
Yeah.
awareness is, awareness is easy for us to go, I'm angry. It's easy for us to become aware. For us to become present with it is the story of me and my anxiety, that I became present. I became present with the emotion that was here. That's another thing. Then accepting it, that's where all the healing happens. And it's not I accept
Yeah.
you, accept you, accept you, accept you. I'm angry at you, but I
It's,
accept you. It is like a, yes, this gross feeling. This is here
yeah.
now. Finally. Thank you so much for digging it up for me, whoever this person or whatever happened. That this came to me, that this situation came to me because I have this feeling inside of me and not the other way around. The energy inside of me has been calling it to me for however long I've been holding on to it and letting it build and fester and sit inside of me. And the situation shows up to dig it up for me. So the situations that uncover our emotions are the ones that are here to heal us the most. And it's funny to watch people that are, avid spiritual readers and practitioners and preachers tell you to set boundaries and run away from those things. Like
Yeah.
boundaries are the complete opposite. We will always know that the egoic thinking separate mind, the separate self, is always backwards to the deepest spiritual love that you're seeking. So if it thinks, yeah, that makes sense, it goes on Instagram scrolling through memes like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. Set a boundary. I got to deserve better than this. You're just hiding from feeling the feelings that are actually here to heal you. In which case, you continue the cycle, continue the fueling of your machine of judgment, continue, and the answer is still always the same. Can I become aware of it and can I accept it? That's it. And if I can't,
I know.
it's only because my mind's not strong enough. So we go to the gym and we exercise
And
it. Now, we also, to talk clearly and make it clear what meditation is. It's easy to go to the gym and work out for an hour a day and recognize you'd probably get fit. But you don't have to go to a
mm-hmm.
gym to be fit. People go rock climbing, play football, soccer, hockey, have a physical job. Maybe they shovel dirt all day. I used to do that when I was very young. I had to continuously shovel this wet dirt back into this hole when we were drilling power poles. Very super fit when you're done shoveling wet dirt. So it doesn't
I
require,
remember.
but it requires you to be active. So that's the same with meditation. People who are starting in meditation seem to think that it's like sit down for an hour, which becomes so boring, so difficult. That's the same thing as, hey, you're out of shape, go to the gym for an hour and just work really hard. It's really difficult. But you can do
Yeah.
it by having some activity, any activity. And that activity could be done when you're driving up and you approach a red light. and you just take a breath and observe that breath. Does it feel warm, cold, long, slow, deep, short? Doesn't matter. It's just that you brought your mind intentionally to something that you chose.
Oh yeah.
And then you do that when you touch the door handle as you're leaving the house, or that you're unlocking the door and you're coming in, or you approach the kitchen, step into the bathroom, and you set a little pattern where you just go like one breath. That's no different than, carrying around a dumbbell, and then you do one rep 30, 40, 50, 60 times a day. It will start to become easier. Your muscle will get stronger. Same with your mind. Then all of a sudden, it's easier to go to the gym. It'll be easier to sit down for 5, 10, 15 minutes. Then it'll be easier for 20, then 30. And for me, I spent a couple of years progressing down this path rather quickly, never meditating at all, because I was doing it continuously through the day. Never meditating in the traditional sense of sitting down on a stool,
Sitting down,
closing my eyes and just breathing. I was just doing it in the truck, while I'm eating, while I'm cooking, while I'm showering, while I'm laying
no,
down.
I actually like, I'm sorry I interrupted you. I actually like, I for at the beginning I started wearing a watch with a vibrate, like that vibrates, and every time it vibrates, I bring myself back to the present moment. Even like if we're talking right now and it would vibrate, and I would go like,
Fun.
okay. Sometimes we even tend to go like somewhere, but then at some point you start to get used to it, I guess, and then you start to do it without the help of external things, because we are animals at the base, so we're becoming aware animals right now, like in this time. So sometimes it's kind of difficult to be aware of the time, but it's part of who we are. So yes, so it's easier, as you said.
Hmm.
Do you want to go to the next question,
Sure.
or you still have something to? Okay, so time.
What about it?
Yeah, that's the topic. Yeah, just say whatever you want about time. What do you think about it? What's your concept of time? Do you think past, present, future exists? What is your experience with time? You can say everything, you can say nothing, it doesn't matter. There is no right or wrong answer.
Sure. When the question of like this is posed to me, which has happened a couple times, I recognize that it's really only the thinking mind that's trying to understand it. And what really happens to, say, whoever's asking this of your followers, the only thing that needs to happen is when we step out of that thinking mind, when we exercise our ability to observe this present moment enough, we will experience the infinite wisdom that is inside that soul. But we can never teach this astrophysics, to a kindergarten kid. You just can't do it.
Yeah.
And that's like trying to teach the soul to the mind. So, people talk about time being a construct. It doesn't exist. It's about, it only seems like it exists because of the memories that continuously string together and blah, blah, blah. But unless that's going to serve you in some way, that you want to advance humanity forward by teaching astrophysics to kindergarten kids, then experiencing time standing still and time speeding up because you become so in tune with your soul, and that wisdom just starts to flow out of you and you don't know why or how. You didn't read it in a book. Nobody taught it to you in a course. You're just speaking from this experience of, when I shut my mind off, these words come out of my mouth. This understanding becomes known. Everybody knows that there is a time it's like, I just knew it. I don't know why I knew it. I just knew it. I knew it was going to happen. All of that infinite truth and wisdom exists outside of that thinking mind of separateness.
Mm-hmm.
But we are
Actually,
stuck in there asking, how do we bridge that understanding? I just want to stay over here, but I want to have all of that. Well, you can't. You got to go over there.
yeah. In fact, like the question would be also the existence of present, past, and future. They only exist here in the thinking mind. Do you believe they exist also like usually people who ask this question are people who have had traumatic experience in their past, and they're trying to not to experience the traumatic experience over and over again. So there are concepts like revising, like you have a situation with a person, or you have a fight with a person and you revise that and then you relive it differently. Does that change the past? Like changing from the present moment, changing the past, those type of like usually the question comes in this forms.
Sure. And that's actually easy to see in science, that people that have near-death experiences or concussions, or they lose their memory, short-term memories and whatnot, obviously their entire past just changed, right? Because the only thing that brings the past into this present is that we're holding on to that story of what it was and what it feels like and why. And this is more of the thinking mind doing its thing of dragging stories along. So if we come to the present moment, if I, for instance, when I was laying on the couch for those 2 days, if I decided to say, oh, you know what, it was because this guy did this and this girl did this, and if I just made this decision this time, and if I did that for 11 hours, I never would have healed anything, right?
Yeah.
But my entire past changed. What my business partners did, what my ex-girlfriend did, how the investors of my business were going to react. All of that changed the moment that I just said, what does this feel like right now? Tell me where the story is in there. Where is the suffering when I'm in this present moment, aware and accepting of this moment? There is no such thing as suffering until you let that egoic thinking mind bring a story into it and tell you how it should have been different. It's wrong. It's bad. I don't accept. And then we suffer. And that's literally the answer to everything. I've told every client I've ever had, we're going to ask ourselves, what do I feel right now, as often as possible, every time, for as long as possible, every day till we die. Then, when you're alive again in your next body, start over. That's it. It's the answer to all of universal healing. And you will evolve through that process to the point where you don't have to ask that question anymore. But if you ask, what do I feel right now? And it's anything that's in the body in this moment that I feel, well, it's breakfast. I have a little bit of, sleep in my eyes. I'm hungry. The air is cold because it's winter here. So every breath I take is a little cold. And I'm observing that right now, that breath is a little cold. And doing that over and over and over again, you don't need to start asking the questions with the words. It'll just happen that you'll just observe. And then your entire universe will just smooth itself out, continuously smooth itself out. It'll go from this wrinkly mess to this smooth, effortless system. Naturally.
Yeah.
And you have every solution to your health, to your spending, to your job and your relationships, to your sleeping and your digestion, to everything will just start to heal when you understand, hey, you know what? I've had this sleeping issue forever because, and out comes the story. And then you recognize, you lay down at night and you have this little bit of fear. It's like, oh, am I going to sleep tonight or am I going to be exhausted? Oh, if I'm exhausted tomorrow, I can't, what am I going to tell the boss? Am I going to be able to think? I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get this done. And you'll realize
The story.
all of this story is the only thing suffering. And then we go, what does this feel like right now? Oh, there's that little bit of whatever. Can I accept the fact that I might not sleep tonight and I might not sleep tomorrow and I might not sleep for a week? But if I keep doing this with awareness and acceptance, it will heal and I will never struggle with sleeping. And I say this because I never slept till I was 30. It was a few hours a night and a 20-minute nap in the day. Actually, the napping didn't happen until I was in my 20s. But my mom tells stories about me being born, and it was 3 or 4 20-minute naps a day. That was it, from an infant till I was in my 20s. I would lay in my bed from 9 o'clock till 3 in the morning, sleep for 2 hours, 3 hours, wake up before everybody. My whole life. And then all of a sudden I started doing this and it was just like lay down. It's like on my pillow. Well, I'm ready to sleep and asleep because I've gone through all the fuel that's fueling the machine of keeping me awake. And it becomes effortless in every area. There's not a
Yeah.
complicated solution where you look around the spiritual world, and I'm taking nothing away from anybody, but it's super complicated. Whether it's this kind of healing or this kind of reading or this kind of understanding, you have to look at what every planet's doing and then relate it to this super complicated house of your natal chart, and then take that onto what stones you have in your pockets and what tarot cards you read yesterday, and on and on and on. It gets very complicated, and all of those are tools, and it takes a tools, to build a house. But are you building
Yeah.
a house in, using the right products for the right parts? Because I have drywall and wood and trim and carpet and countertops and toilets, but I don't use my countertops as walls, and I don't use my drywall as carpet, as flooring. Everything's got to be in its right place. But more important than that, it has to be built on a foundation that's capable of holding it up in the next storm. And this is what I learned when I stopped reading everything, is that I was trying to use drywall as windows and windows as carpet and countertops as toilets, and it didn't work. When I was building my house, I was just making sure that I wanted to decorate it before I wanted to build a foundation of knowing myself. So once I figured out how to know myself and I made a very solid foundation, add any one of those. Read books, enjoy them, experience them. Tarot cards, great. Find other healers and get different perspectives on it. That's cool. Just make sure that whatever you're bringing into and building into your house is built on a solid foundation of you knowing you. Because if you don't
Yeah.
know you,
And
now you're being told by this other healer, this is how it is, and now you're abandoning this build of a house, and you're going to start over here, and you're going to start over here, and you never get a house up that's capable of handling a storm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And or you get stuck in your information and never applying anything mode. So yeah. Okay. Probably just going to be the last one. Feelings.
Feelings.
So they say the feeling is the secret. So having the feeling of something in the present moment can bring that into reality. What do you think about that? Now you're going to probably say, no, you have to be aware, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm going to anticipate you.
So the teachings of Buddha says, there's a story translated. I don't know how accurate it is, but it's great. It says, for a bird to fly, it must have two wings of the same size and the same strength, right? Say you take two birds up in a plane. One has two wings and one has one wing, and you throw them out. They're both up in the air. They both look like they're flying. One of them's spinning in circles, right? Ultimately, that's known as falling in a spiral, which is very similar to what we do. We spiral downwards. So you have to have a wing or two wings of the same size and the same strength, and those two wings are awareness and acceptance. And then you can fly. And when you add the acceptance, which is most people become aware, I have this issue, I feel this is what this feeling is. I'm crying because I'm sad. I'm yelling because I'm angry, whatever. The awareness isn't the hard part. Becoming present with it and then accepting it, that's the next step. So with feelings, your ultimate question is, well, I have a question for you first. You said, they say. Who is they?
The people that ask.
The people that have asked you to ask this question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I
So,
have a lot of people,
yeah. So what is
but
it?
and also every teacher, every spiritual teacher, every spiritual guide, it's like everybody says, and even from my experience, that it is known that if you have, like, even when it comes to suffering and everything that you're creating in the future, if you're having a negative feeling towards that, that means you're not aligned with your true self. So that means you are off alignment. That means that what you're going to be getting is the off alignment, which is you're trying to create something.
Sure.
And when it comes to, like, the opposite, that is you being aligned and you being conscious and you trying to create something out of your consciousness, which is the universe creating something for you, then you are in alignment, then it feels good. So yeah, the
Right.
balance. I
So
guess.
this is true. The entire process of what do I feel right now, which is essentially all that I teach, is to observe what do I feel right now,
Hmm.
because that brings our mental energy into our physical body with our emotions. And then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
the only thing that lives in this present moment is our soul, and our ego lives on both sides, the present and the past, the thinking mind, that all four of them are now in the same place, right? This is
Hmm.
where we're in alignment. What do I feel right now? So as we observe ever more subtly, we recognize just how many times we have a feeling that we're reacting to out of a judgment, which is another feeling that came from probably a fear of an aversion to something else. And we just have this continuous cycle of reacting to feelings, judgments, attachments, aversions over and over and over again. And the
Yeah.
feelings, yes, very much so. That which you send out, you're getting back to you. The universe only does
Back.
one thing. It is a place for neutral evolution. And all it does is give you more of what you feel. And the stronger you
Yeah.
feel it, the more it gives it back to you. So
Get back to you.
the old saying was something like, that which you give is multiplied in return. Right.
Yeah. But I guess the problem comes when people start mixing up like their feelings with their emotions, because feelings are like, when you get irritated, or when, like you said that before also, for example, if you sitting down, if it irritates me, and then if I just, start thinking, why can't he just stand up? Why can't he just stand up? You would stand up, but the irritation will stay there. Maybe you start talking on your phone, or maybe you start doing something else that irritates me. So what I have to deal with is not you standing up or sitting down, it's just the feeling of irritation. But what people do is they end up mixing up their feelings with their emotions. Emotions is just feelings that have already transformed into, energy, which is sadness and stuff. So I guess people want to use their feelings to usually people, when they come to you and they ask you for help, they're asking because they want to create something in this world. So that's why a lot of people ask that question. That's why I asked you.
Okay. So let's reiterate the question. What is it?
Yeah.
What do I know about feeling?
Feeling. Yes, the feel, like what, so let's talk practical steps. I know like steps are, they're they're a 3D world type of thing, steps trying to fix your life and stuff. I know the basic step is to be aware. Any situation can be fixed by being aware. But when you have a person who's suffering in front of you, what is the first thing that you tell them? Hey, be aware. They'll be like, what? So, well, how do you approach a person comes to you and they're telling you, I have this problem, I have this problem. Or let's say the classical one, okay? So somebody's treating me really bad and I'm super sad. So how do you help them?
What does that feel like right now?
Oh
Honestly,
yeah, I knew that. I knew that you were going to say that.
I'll tell you why it has to be that, and I'll tell you why I'll never compromise on that. Like, I'm really motivated, I guess, is that the word, to make sure that I observe any rigid beliefs that I have. But
Mm-hmm.
a rigid belief of the thinking mind that this is good or this is bad. I have to observe them all, let them flow, let them be accepted and arise. But one thing that I will not change my mind on, or my actions, reactions, results, will be that it is always about, what do I feel right now? When you recognize, let's just say you're in a relationship, you're getting treated poorly, there's feelings inside of you, and you come to me and you say, hey, Warren, I want you to help me get out of this relationship. And that's what you're telling me is, I'm sick of feeling this feeling. I don't want to learn this lesson. I just want out. I want to hide from it. I want to suppress it. And Warren is never going to accept that. I'll emotionally be in a
This is
state of acceptance, but I'll be like, whoa, whoa, we want to heal or do we want to hide? You'll say, well, heal. Because as we know, we've seen it in many of our friends. Every one of us has that friend that goes from one relationship to the next. They're exactly the same with a different face. I went from one
Okay.
business to the next, the exact same result with a different face. I've done this a number of times myself. I've seen it in almost every person in one way or the other, because this is our purpose. Come into this world, learn how to heal these things that are inside of us, learn how to become present, aware, accepting of everything that's going on in each moment. So you come to me and you say, I would like to get out of this relationship. And I say, like, perfect. What do you want in your next relationship? Another, abusive person? Or do you want a loving, happy relationship? Well, loving, happy one. Good. Well, while this person's here, they're literally here screaming at you to bring your healing here. They're literally here to heal you. The people that come into your world and only bring ease don't bring up much healing. Okay, that's an area of your life where things are in ease, that you've done most of your healing, whether in this lifetime or a past. But the ones that bring up the most pain, the most suffering, they are your greatest healers. So why would we run from them? This is why, if you ever, follow me around Instagram, the comments I make on other people's posts are typically like, hey, boundaries are not loving. Boundaries are exactly the opposite of healing. And people continuously preach boundaries. I do not. I preach, you do not leave that situation until you learn the lesson. So the harder it is, the faster and more motivated you are to heal and love and accept and grow. Because as soon as you do, the universe will effortlessly iron it out. This person that's abusing you will either grow with you or leave. Those are your options. You no longer, like, we've never had the ability to stay in harmony with something we're not in harmony with. It's not how the universe works.
Yeah.
So when we look at this person and say, this person's awful, this person's an ass, this person's a jerk, this person's bad, whatever, we haven't learned the lesson yet. We're still filled with judgment. They treat us poorly, we come up with sadness. We still have this sadness. We still have this fear of being treated poorly, this attachment to this person and the attachment to suffering. But each and every one of them, really, the answer is still, oh, what does that feel like? What does that judgment feel like? What does that attachment feel like? What does this self-worth issue feel like that makes me stay here? Oh, where is that? Oh, this is why he's here or she's here. This is why this person's doing that, because I have so much energy in this emotion, in this feeling right here that I'm suffering from, that when I go, yuck, there it is, or here it is, or here it is, or wherever it is in the body, sometimes it'll manifest shoulders, knees, joints, any one of the 7 chakras. People typically always find it somewhere in the core, 7 chakra areas. They're feeling that pain, that tension, vibration, and I ask them, like, what does it feel like? And you'll say, oh, it feels like a brick is in my stomach. And I'll be like, what color is that brick? And now, all I've done is I've taken that wounded little child, that kindergarten thinking mind, and I've given it some way to come be present and aware in this, in this moment. So it's too occupied thinking, how big is this brick? What color is this brick? What shape is it? Does it have anything on it? Is it changing? And now when the thinking mind and the soul are in the same moment with the emotions, we have the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual all in one place, just being aware of this, you can see that you can heal long traumas very quickly. For instance, I healed 25 plus years of anxiety in a day and a half. And what I sacrificed in that day and a half when it came to what my thinking mind thought I needed to accomplish when it came to business and meetings and things of that sort, absolutely nothing compared to what I gained from ignoring them and just with that anxiety. But we do that with every single emotion, every single thought. The more that we become aware, the more we realize that little egoic thinking mind is just trying to direct us in all of these ways that are familiar from the old pain and the old stories. And as soon as we become aware, bring that egoic thinking mind into this moment, it heals quickly, like really quickly. 25 years in a day and a half. That's a very good ROI if we're talking about investments. That's better than any book you could buy. That's better than any coaching you could get. That's better than than any reading that
I
somebody.
know. I know. I know. I know. Sometimes I wish like you could open their brain and just be like, just be present, present with it.
So
Just be present with it.
I
Yeah.
struggled with this as well for quite a while. The judgment, the justified judgment, my ego, my
Judgment.
feelings
Yeah.
sneakily
There
justified.
is a spiritual ego, by the way.
Right.
There
It
is.
it justified the fact that we should not, we should tell people that this is harmful, this is bad, that you're doing it wrong. And although the words, not too long ago, just 20 minutes ago, I said boundaries are not loving, boundaries are causing pain, boundaries are suppression. And saying the words is very close to the same judgment, but the feelings of them, as soon as we start talking and bringing things from spiritual understanding, and we'd have to shove them through our brain filter, our mind filter, and try to put them out into words, we lose things in translation. The feeling that it's wrong versus the trying to explain what I'm talking about is very different. But I used to feel that it was wrong. I used to feel like I had a mission to make sure I told people, hey, don't listen to this person because they're wrong. Boundaries are actually setting a boundary, making sure that your uncle can't come to your Christmas because he's narcissistic. Um, and then we need to fight against cancer, and we need to fight against racism, and we need to fight against this and fight against that, and we need to have a war on drugs and a war on poverty and a war on bullying. And it's easy to justify, yeah, we need to stop those things, we need to fight against them, but that never creates less, it only creates more. As we fight against
Yeah.
them, we only create more. So I was also justifying things like that for a while, until I realized that there's still this subtle, sneaky, egoic, judgment. This fuel is still in there, fueling this little motor that's still spitting out little judgments here and there. And I also went through, as you know, my other project with Altruist X. It's a vision that could change the world in this big, beautiful way. And I was like, well, how are we supposed to change the world if nothing needs to change? If I accept it exactly as it is, how do I change it? And it took me almost a year for me to meditate on this almost daily, just as the feelings come up, just continuously observe, let the thoughts flow, and then observe what was that thought. The observation of thought is not a thought. So I just observe and observe and observe. And I realize that life is, when we're in this state, life is just, that's what I'm doing. I will change the world, not because it's wrong or broken, not because I need to fight against something, but because that's what I'm doing. It's what I'm doing in this moment now. And I try my very best to make sure that anytime I'm working on it or doing anything, that I'm doing it from a state of present. I'm present with making food. I'm present with talking with my kids. I'm present with playing sports. I'm present when I'm writing my business plan. I'm present when I'm making, speaking with marketing firms. I'm present when I'm doing whatever. And that is still the answer. Can we be present, aware, and accepting in each moment, from moment to moment, until we die? And it's one simple question. I've said it 15 times today. What does that feel like right now? What do I feel right now?
Right now. Okay.
Any of your followers take that advice and practice it deeply, understanding that you don't go to the gym and get super fit in an hour. It takes time and effort, reps over and over and over. That if they do that same thing with their mind, that in a month or so, they're going to have some pretty significant results. Doing it a few minutes a day, they'll have some significant results where they'll start to see that there's a difference. There's reactions that happen differently than they used to. There's hot buttons that no longer set me off. There's, all of a sudden the people in my house started acting different. They stopped doing that thing that annoyed me when I stopped being annoyed by it, because the universe just continuously brings you the thing that you need to heal. And that one, if any of your followers take that one step, ask themselves that question, what does this feel like right now? And then observe the actual sensations of that feeling. Not, it feels like the last time my brother did this to me. No, What does it feel like? It feels like there's something like a
Yeah.
sharp stabbing pain in my heart. It feels like there's tension in my neck. It feels like, it's vibrating brick. And then observe it closer. Is there a size and shape to this feeling? Like, is there energy that's actually in a ball? Is it like a log shape? Does it go? I've had many that will come straight from the bottom of my chin, and I'll just feel like there's this big log that's like in my throat. And you just go, now we're present and aware with the energy and the feelings and the reactions that are happening to the situation in this moment. If anybody does that, they will find they get the exact same answers, the exact same results that I got, that every client that I've taught got, that my kids get. They're 9 and 14. Anybody that practices this, because we are all one in our true self, we are all exactly the same, that we will get exactly the same results. It is only the mind of separateness that thinks that there's a million ways to get to the same place. There's only a million stories, but there's one thing that we do that is universal, because we all have a soul. We're all part of consciousness, that when we bring our everything that we have to this conscious moment, or consciously to this moment, we find out exactly what we really are. And we get the exact same results. That everything is just a projection of what we're holding energetically inside of ourself. As we start to observe that, it comes out, and we go back to that one.
Yeah. I can actually tell you've said this so many times because it is actually, different language, different writers, different people, different speak, like it's different, everybody says it, but yeah. And everybody continues to understand it from different people, but the thing is, they're just not applying it. Be present. That's the secret. There is no other secret. Just be present.
Right. So
Be aware.
So to be present is one thing, and to have the exercise of practicing presence is another. And that exercise is literally just observe whatever is going on inside the physical body, sensation-wise, in this moment. And do that for a moment, from moment to moment. Do that 2-3 times a day, 2-3 times an hour, for a second or two at a time. That is plenty. And if your egoic thinking mind is now going like, oh yeah, okay, we'll do 2 seconds a day, and we'll then go and tell all our friends, I meditate, and then spiritually become this big spiritual ego, which happens, is not what I'm saying. I'm saying just do that continuously as you're stressed about finances, as you're feeling gross because you overate, or you ate food that's not healthy, and you realize that you have this judgment of what is and isn't healthy. And we break down every molecule down to an atom, and realize that it's all just mind. It's all just mind. It's consciousness putting together that that's a wall, and that I am not a wall, so that wall does not become me. And every piece of us is 99.999% empty, and we're all pretty much exactly the same thing at our core. It's all just mind. That things that are unhealthy, like Warren Buffett's only drank Diet Coke or Cherry Coke for like 40 years. If I drank Cherry Coke for 40 days, I would get sick, because I believe Cherry Coke makes you sick. Right? My grandmother smoked filterless cigarettes for like 70 years. Never had any health issues, until one winter it got so cold and she was getting too old to go out. So we got her a TV and a radio, so she would have something to do while she was kind of locked up in her house for the winter, Canadian winter, right? And then she found an article or a commercial or something that says that cigarettes cause cancer. So she calls my mom. And if we're not old enough to remember this, but back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, they used to tell you that smoking was healthy for you. Having a smoker, a couple smokes a day was good for this and good for opening the blood vessels and whatever. They tell you that it's healthy for you. And up until the 80s and 90s, when they started putting new regulations on them and taxes and whatnot, because of how unhealthy they are. So my grandmother died riddled of cancer, 2 years later. She just got super stressed out about this cancer that she's going to have, but never had a single health issue prior, 70 years of smoking filterless cigarettes. And maybe it's more like 60. She was just about 80. So yeah, it's probably close to 70 years. But the point is that it's all mind. It's all mind.
It's all mine. Yeah.
That's the basis of everything.
Yeah.
Whatever beliefs are in your mind, if you live within alignment of them, you can look around and see your friends and you're like, how does this person have such kind of like egoic, shitty belief system, and yet their life is thriving? They're living within their belief system. They're living in alignment.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that it's alignment with the universe. The universe is neutral. The universe doesn't call things good or bad. The universe just says, what's your belief? Live within it.
Yeah.
Then we can look around and say, well, look at all these people that are anti-maskers or anti-vaxxers, or the group that's vaxxers and maskers, or there's some of them that are vaxxers and anti-maskers, and some of them that are mix and match. And it doesn't matter what they're choosing to do. What matters is, do I have, any feelings about it, judgments about either side, any side? Am I suffering from them not living within my alignment? And then are they living in alignment with themselves? That's all that matters. Live within alignment of yourself. Can you do that? Can I allow you to do that?
Yeah.
Here I just spent I spent an hour telling you essentially what's my alignment. Living within alignment.
And then I have to take that in with a filter and with my own ways I can apply it. Yeah, I guess I get you. I get what you mean.
The best part
is when you go.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's when you go. No, I was going to comment on the last thing that you said. Like, it's when you go read like those astrology newspapers and they say, "Oh, Scorpion is having a bad day," but the only Scorpion who's going to have a bad day is the only Scorpion who read that, and the rest of the Scorpions in the world are happy and doing whatever they want to do. So I guess, yeah, it's all about belief and what you have going on in your head, the stories that you create and the stories that you believe. So yeah.
Right. And that we are, as a species, evolving faster, or we're evolving closer to manifesting faster. We're manifesting our lessons faster. And Eckhart Tolle has a quote that says something like, when our dreams are comfortable, we have very little motivation to awaken. It's when they turn into nightmares that we become motivated to wake up, right? And well, looking around, we could say, like, could this world get any worse? Yeah, it almost actually can't get that much better. Like, it's so good in my world. It's so good. The healing that's happening, that's all the terrible that most people are suffering from, that I see as like, oh, this is necessary. This is loving. This is great. It's waking the world up. Or we're in this peaceful state where, we're living out the results of our healing. And I see this, look around this world, realizing that, yeah, we could get way, way worse. But like, we're continuously moving forward. We're continuously evolving. The universe doesn't know how to devolve. It's only a neutral evolution. And it would only be my judgment of it otherwise that would make me suffer, which would then contribute to more people suffering, which ultimately isn't wrong either. So the reason why I try not to give opinions on much, let's make sure that's true. I don't know if that's even true. Your perspective, maybe I gave you nothing but my opinion. The reason why my opinion is just observe what you feel right now is that this will just bring you to your alignment. It does not mean that you're going to align with what I believe. It will bring you to your true self. And now my opinion of that is, when you come to your true self, you'll realize that you and I are one, that there is no separation.
Yeah.
You're not Mercy and I'm not Warren, that we're just, leaves on a tree, and we think we're different trees, but we're really just all one tree. And that from that place, we will have this universal understanding that's all the same. It's just love and compassion, acceptance of what is. While we, no different than a movie, we just observe that movie. We just watch it happen. We're watching life happen in a state of acceptance.
Yeah. And the suffering kind of has to exist for us to understand what love is. If there is no suffering, there is no point. So, yes.
I've done a lot of woodworking since been quarantined. I've been building everything from little picture frames to wooden bow ties to Thor hammers and lap desks. And I just built for Christmas, I built a very large, really really unique table for the dining room. We had a small table from our old place, and we moved recently, and it didn't fit this place, so I built a new table. And then you can, get into the process of being present. You realize that you start out by sanding all of the rough parts out of your life, but you got to go over there. You got to beat them up a little bit with the sander, right? Get out the 60 grit, then the 120 and 150. And this is very similar to how my process of healing happened, is that as you go from, you start out meditating, you can see some really rapid results, because it's the gross imperfections or the gross struggling points. They're very easy to see, and they're very easy to see as they change. That it's kind of like saying, say I started at a 1 and I went from a 1 to a 2, I only took one step, but that was 100% change. But if I went from 2 to 3, that's still only one step, but it's only 50% change. And then from 3 to 4, it's 33% change. Even though it's still one step, you're only getting 33% change. Well, it's the same as watching how I healed in my own life, is that you take steps and there's big change. Then there's seemingly less change. Then a little bit more subtle thing changes, and a little bit more subtle, and it gets more subtle. And we get to this place where you start to feel like you're not moving forward, and you're still one step at a time. Well, the universe has always been like that. It's just us judging whether or not that's a step that we accept, or it's not fast enough. I want more money. I want it faster. I want it now. I want a better relationship. So anyways, I've been just standing around my garage, sanding things, realizing this is exactly the metaphor for life. Starts out removing lots of material really fast, then a little bit less and a little bit less. And then all of a sudden, 20 minutes later, the whole thing's super buttery soft.
Yeah. No, I've noticed this, like exactly what you're saying, because I love to read books, and I love to read different books written by different people. And you can actually see even the changes in the writer. The first book they wrote is completely different from the last book they write, because they are completely a different person, and they speak about like different things at the last book than the first books. When they wrote the first book, they're very more attached. They're very more, world-like. While at the last book they write, it's completely different, and it's like they're so neutral. Nothing matters to them anymore. Like I've noticed this with different writers. So yeah. I guess you're right. We kind of have to clean it up. I've noticed it with myself too. I went through like different phases of, I guess you can call it spirituality, but different phases of spirituality. I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I'm still talking. Like even the people that you talk to is different for every phase. The people that you encounter is different. So yeah, I guess like you clean it up every once in a while. It's like an onion peel. I guess I always say like peeling an onion.
I often talk about peeling an onion, to my 9-year-old especially, and just one more layer. This is another layer. Away we go. It's the same as yesterday. It's not that we're getting worse. We just haven't got through them all.
Yeah.
Many people would think that, oh, wait, I've already dealt with anger. Why am I angry again? I must be going backwards. No, it's just another layer, and another layer, and another layer, and you keep going. And then you realize that anger is getting less and less, like the onions get thinner and thinner. You're right. It's healing.
Yeah.
Is that all your questions? You said a lot. That was like 5.
I know I have a lot of questions, but I guess we will be here like till tomorrow. So I think it's good enough that we have dealt with a good one. So that's good. I think I've had enough for today. Yes. If not, like I said, you start a conversation about like this type of conversation, it never ends. So like people have experiences to share. So yeah, I guess we can finish them here.
Okay. Well, thanks for the invite.